More nuts, more nuts, more nuts.
And ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from where you might be watching from. My name is Jasper and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing a TBC Top 5. This is going to be the first one of the series, and we're going to be covering some changes that we might potentially like to see, or potentially we might see with the re-release of The Burning Crusade. Dual Spec was definitely a welcomed change that I think honestly completely changed how we approach the content and the playstyles this time around. I personally made my decision to come back to Azeroth once again simply because of this fact alone. I would assume that the devs have no intention of removing this feature for the re-release of The Burning Crusade, this time around at least, but we will just have to keep our eyes, ears posted to the forums for the official word of this for the TBC relaunch. I know that specifically for myself, playing a class that could take on multiple roles, whether it be tank, damage, or healing, this really changed a lot and really opened up more opportunities for me to find groups, create groups, and of course just a better quality of life in terms of playstyle, not only for the early game, but also for the late game. Up next, we are going to be looking at attunements. This both concerns the early, the mid, and the late game as well. This is definitely one of the interesting parts of TBC that was both charming, but also a nuisance at the same time. Just to get a character ready for later tier of raids, that one single tune would have to reach level 70, clear all normal and heroic versions of instances, which of course were locked behind some rep and other items. You'd have to progress and kill bosses from the earlier tiers before the one that you were in at the moment, and you would also have to complete very long and time-consuming, very complex quest chain that requires not also heroic timed events, elite boss kills both in the open world and in instance, and of course, a lot of traveling between both Outlands and Azeroth. With all that said, it was definitely a difficult experience to even swap or thinking about swapping characters mid-expansion. It was almost like a death sentence in terms of progression and catch-up. Now, I don't want attunements removed. I think that they definitely are a crucial and integral part of the Burning Crusade's charm and experience. It was almost like a rite of passage. I do feel, though, that perhaps once a character has reached a certain threshold of an attunement, or perhaps completed the attunement process entirely, that it would be unlocked and available on all the alts under the same account. We could do what was done back during the original re-release, where as the patch cycle progressed, previous tiers of raids were negated and unlocked to everyone, just to allow open access to players. This might be the best option since it does allow easier integration and introduction to the raids. That also benefits guilds in the early, mid, and late game, and also players that might be starting after the expansion's launch to allow them to simply just see the content, which is the whole point of the game, being able to see content regardless of what it is. As someone who personally adores The Burning Crusade, its content, races, and story, I really would be content with having Era TBC servers. I know it's probably more of a minute and smaller segment of the entire player base. Both Wrath and Classic servers on the private side of things have been up and running for many years, and the Burning Crusade servers, while smaller in numbers, are around and have over the past couple of years had a steady stream of growth of players coming in to step through the dark portal once again. Recently on a private server that was brought to us by Warmane, I believe. It was the Onyxia server. It actually is progressing from Classic into TBC and then onwards into Wrath of the Lich King, and I was there on the launch day for Onyxia, and it was absolutely insane. I do feel like, especially for WoW's first expansion, and one with so much iconic lore, raid tiers, it would only be fitting to see it have a permanent home for that dedicated player base, and I feel like it's something that would be a mistake if Blizzard didn't go through with. Alright, so layers are nothing new. I feel like the continuation of having them is almost a must-have to avoid any potential issues, especially during the launch. Looking at you PvP servers, layers have also helped with farming for herbs, nodes, and other quest items, NPCs, and etc. I would like Blizzard to keep the layering in, like they have, but perhaps revisit certain aspects of layering, as it has and will continue to be abused by bots and players alike. Just like it always has been since its introduction, but it's something that I feel like is a change that should be kept into the game, especially for TBC, just because of how everything plays out in TBC, specifically with the starting zone. And maybe perhaps if it could be refined and tuned to suit a player audience for 2026, or perhaps late 2025 onwards. Now, this is definitely the straw that broke the camel's back. This is a hot topic amongst the Sweatlords and hardcore raiders in the Burning Crusade. A brief history of this spell called Heroism and Bloodlust, and why it might cause so much contention comes down simply to its use. Upon activation in the past, it increases party-wide haste by 30%, which is absolutely huge. Completely allows groups to push through tough phases of certain encounters that might have called for larger bursts of damage. In the re-release of the Burning Crusade nearly almost 4 years ago now, it was changed to a raid-wide buff. With that, it didn't really nerf the spell, but prevented guilds from class stacking as heavily as they did in the past, and it allowed guilds to bring other classes to raid in order to avoid the class stacking of like 8 to 10 shamans in the past. So in the past you would take the shaman, pop Bloodlust, swap that shaman out with another shaman, pop Bloodlust again, and just rinse and repeat. You normally do that with your melee groups or caster groups. It just simply depended on what the encounter called for. I think that is probably the best thing going forward, though. I think that is a change that should be kept. Same with the Drums of War. Let's take a look at those now as well. Now, the Drums of Battle, very cheap to make, very heavily used, and very heavily spammable and abusable. I feel like they should probably keep what they did last time and make it a raid-wide debuff. In the past, it was just a party-wide debuff. It's definitely a change that I feel like needs to be implemented so it's not used and abused like it was in the past. It's very similar to Bloodlust and Heroism, just from a profession, so you didn't have to be a shaman to get it, but if you were a shaman, you could still use the Bloodlust and Drums. And it was a very nasty combo. It was great for clearing, but it kind of forced people to go leatherworking, and it kind of forced people to be a shaman. So that's two big changes that I feel like should be left in place, like they were adjusted for in the re-release of the Burning Crusade. But what do you think should be adjusted or even changed for the Burning Crusade this time around? Or perhaps should anything be changed at all? Let me know down in the comments below what changes or no changes should be implemented in the near future as we creep ever so closer to TBC once again. Thank you for watching, stay safe, take care, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.